All right, if I can have everyone's attention up here. And then everyone else up there, do I have your attention? Hello.
Angie Tucker's here somewhere.
Hello, everyone. All right, so before I continue on with the lovely evening, Emily actually has a few memories of her parents before they come up and say a little word. So, Terri,
Get a pro.
Emily said that you took her to the Hilly Dove concert. You were 7 rows from the stage, and you did everything you could to make sure that it was the best time. Hams. Emily said that when you guys went on a trip to Germany when she was 12, you showed her the town that you went to every summer when you were a child, and you introduced her to a few lovely relatives.
You look like that.
So, if Terri and Hams, the parents of the bride, and Johnny, brother, could come up, that would be great.
Good evening, friends, family, and honored guests. I'm Emily's dad, yes, father of the bride. I would like to start by thanking my lovely wife, Terri, Brian's parents and step-parents for your support, the officiant, members of this lovely establishment, and all guests for your attendance. I've been waiting for this moment for 26 years, and must say it is one of the more difficult things that I've had to do. Although it's overwhelming to give your daughter away, it is also satisfying to know that she's marrying one of the greatest men I've ever met. If I would have had to have made the choice for you, I would not have picked anybody else. Emily has always been the type of person to find a good quality in everyone. From the time she was old enough to go to school, she readily made friends and often thought of others before herself. As I look at my daughter today, I can't help but reflect on the girl she was and the lovely woman she has become. She became Daddy's girl the day she was born, and has always been a princess to me. Throughout her life, she has brought joy to Terri and I, and while not every day has been perfect, the love we feel for her has been. Today she has joined hands with a wonderful young man, and beyond the sparkle I've always seen in her eyes, today I see a love and joy beyond anything I've seen before. Emily and Brian today have completed each other as they embark on their new life. I mentioned previously that Emily often thinks of others first. I feel compelled to share a story with you, namely where Em had attended a bank machine and shopping mall in Barrie, Ontario. She needed to withdraw money from her account to purchase a prom dress. Emily withdrew the money, placed in her wallet, went to the store to purchase the dress. Upon pulling the bills from her wallet to pay, she suddenly realized that she had a considerable amount of money more than what she had withdrawn from her account. Yes, the ATM handed over too much money. Well, without hesitation, Emily marched back to the bank, explained the situation to a rather speechless teller, and handed over the extra money given. The teller advised that they had never had this happen before, and she would need to speak with her manager. The bank staff were so impressed, they sent Emily a thank you card with a $50 gift certificate. When her mom asked her about what was going through her mind, might have been worded slightly differently, she said, I wanted Dad to be proud of me. And sweetie, you've exceeded my expectations. And now, a few words about Brian. When I first met Brian, I could tell he really wanted to be part of our family. And I think mainly because he really liked me. Am I right? Oh, once in a while, I'm right. Brian is a classy guy. He knows how to say all the right things to the right people. 2 years ago, Brian and Emily came to Bracebridge for Father's Day. Brian and I had separated from the ladies to attend an annual car show. Well, it was during this time that Brian took the opportunity to ask for permission to marry my daughter. Brian, you are a gentleman. A quick story about Brian. It was Valentine's Day. Terri and I were at home. When I walked into the room Terri was in, gazing into her eyes with card in hand. Terri, just having looked up from her phone, said, "Hey, want to see what Brian did for Emily?" I naively took the bait and said, "Sure." Terri showed me the pics on her phone, freshly sent from Emily, containing nice gifts, chocolates, flowers, rose petals carefully leading the way from one room to the next. At this point, there was nothing I could do to compete with that. I had been severely outdone by my, at that time, future son-in-law. I have one more story to tell about Brian regarding his abilities in fixing things. Might as well just do it there. Just hold off on opening that up for a second. Recently, Brian noticed that the central air unit of the house was making some unusual noise. So with wrench in hand, he decided to investigate. After loosening a connection and draining the refrigerant, it was decided that now the best option was a brand new unit. A $4,000 touch. As an award, I've decided to get you something that in that bag, if you don't mind just removing that. It is a very lovely tool apron. So the tag on there says you can put tools in there. I have a better suggestion. There's two pockets. One pocket will hold your cell phone, and the other your wallet. It's in the mail.
As parents, we raise our children with the hope we have given them the tools to guide them down the right path. With Emily and her brother Johnny, her dad and I cannot be more proud of them. I was thrilled when my firstborn was a girl. I was determined that she and I would have a relationship where she could always feel comfortable to come to me and speak to me without reservation. As Em grew older, we did indeed become like best friends. She tells me pretty much everything, asks for advice, and doesn't cause too much drama. Okay, that last part's a little stretch, but you know. From the time Em was a youngster, she has been determined, strong, loyal, and yes, somewhat stubborn. We were fortunate to raise Emily and her brother in a small rural town 2 hours from here. Her first day of JK, she was required to take a bus. I was standing at the top of our driveway, tears welling up, and here was Em, carrying a backpack larger than she was, standing at the bottom of the driveway. The bus arrived, doors swung open, she walked up those steps and didn't look back. She's been like this her entire life, whether it's been going to an all-girls camp in Algonquin Park without knowing anyone prior to, flying to the UK by herself at the age of 13 to visit her Uncle Mike, or when we dropped her off of her first year of university. I have to say the best part of my life has been your mom. We first met Brian We first met Brian about 5 months ago after he and Emily had began dating. He was gracious enough to drop her off at home in Bracebridge during the Christmas break. We only got to spend about 20 minutes with him as he still had a long drive to London. But in those 20 minutes, he made a great impression. He and Emily both had that sparkle in our eye and a connection. Despite our living 4.5 hours away from Ottawa, we've had the opportunity over the years to spend much time with Brian. We cheered him on when he was presented with his honors degree from Carleton, and we were supportive when he and Emily decided to get an apartment together, and then a year ago when they bought their first home. I have to say, I really haven't had any great concerns regarding Brian. Well, maybe just a couple. When I first visited him after moving into their apartment, I couldn't help but notice a whiteboard hanging above Brian's desk. There was a heading that read, Life Goals. I began to read his list and of course was impressed. He wanted to travel, he wanted to make lots of money, be a great friend, and the dreaded, he wants to live in California. Of course, when I read this, I'm sure it was very evident on my face how I felt. But Brian, in his calm and reassuring voice, stated, Terri, don't worry. If we live in California, that means we can afford to buy you a flight ticket. So Brian, I'm going to hold you to that. When Brian and Em had been dating for a while, of course I had to ask the question to Emily that naturally every Canadian would. Who does he cheer for in the NHL? To my dismay, he's a dreaded Toronto Maple Leaf fan. Now I know for some people this may be a deal breaker, but over the years, I've watched my brother and now our son go to the dark side. So Brian, I look forward to our many friendly sessions of bantering back and forth regarding who is the better Ontario team, the Sens or the Leafs. Brian? Brian, I adore you, and I'm so grateful that you flirted with Emily that night in McDonald's. As Emily's mom, my hope was she would find a man who would love her, respect her, treat her like a princess, and Brian, you're very much that man. At this time, I wish you and Emily only the best, and I'm so happy that as of Monday, my bank account's going to be resurrected because I no longer have to pay for her cellular phone plan now that she's a Goodman.
Please raise your glasses to toast our bride and groom. Emily has dreamed of this day since she was a young girl, and now her dream has come true, complete with her very own Prince Charming. Emily and Brian, may God continue to bless you both and grant you safety, love, and happiness all the days of your lives. Cheers.
I hope everyone's having a good time so far tonight. If it wasn't made clear already, I am Emily's brother, only brother, hopefully favorite. So I'm going to keep this less sloppy than my parents did, but not so much a speech. I'm going to give Brian a little spiel. That's some pointers to go throughout your marriage and try to keep Emily as happy as possible. So first up, if Emily has a day off, don't even attempt to talk to her before 12 p.m. Okay? I'm sure you've learned that through these 5 years now, but sometimes 11:30 a.m. if you're lucky. Okay? Tip number 2. Brian, I'm not sure if you know this story, but my family and I, we went on a little road trip, Eastern Canada, and I don't know, probably day 4 or 5. We stopped at Tim Hortons like every other normal Canadian family would do in the morning. Okay? And she was already a little on edge, not sure why. Teenage hormones are getting to her. So she ordered a bagel with cream cheese. We get on the road, and she looks at her bagel. There's no cream cheese. Tears start running down her face. Yelling starts occurring. Dad, driving, not getting happy as we go on. He's getting a little angry himself. So Brian, if you ever ask for a bagel, please remember the cream cheese. Number 3, lastly, never, ever, even if it ever crosses your mind, put yourself before all of it. Now that you're husband and wife, you may think you might be in the clear, but trust me, you're not, no matter the scenario. Okay? Oliver will always be number one. But yeah, that's all I got. I hope these tips help you out. Emily, you look very beautiful tonight. I've never seen you so gorgeous. Brian, I guess you're a little handsome yourself. All right. Again, I hope everyone's having a great evening. Let's get this party started.
Oh, adorable, John. All right. Next up, we have the lovely Angie Cox and the Gemma Vanher for another lovely speech. Some lovely friends. Woo! Let's give a round of applause.
Hello. We are the former roommates of Brian. I'm Gemma. This is Angie. Living with Brian provided us with the perfect opportunity to know the good, the bad, and the derpy. We have been preparing for this speech ever since we met Brian in our first week of university. We wanted to share with you a couple stories that demonstrate our love for Brian as a roommate.
We loved Brian as a roommate because he had a car, which we lovingly referred to as the base cannon, because the only thing that could fit in the trunk were two massive subwoofers. But there were some other elements of the base cannon that added to its character, such as the rear view mirror that kept falling off. Brian tried several techniques to get the rear view mirror to stay on. You know, like glue, bubble gum. Yes, Brian did try to use bubble gum to stick the rear view mirror to his windshield. But alas, neither material could quite stand up to the constant vibrations of the subwoofers. So eventually, Brian buys an expensive glue to put the mirror back on once and for all. But he decides he doesn't want to wait for the mirror to dry, so he uses his engineering brain and thought, why don't I use a pogo stick? All the tension will keep it hold up in place, so he sets up the mirror, pushes the pogo stick right up against the shield and releases it. Surprise! The pogo stick did not hold up the mirror. It smashed right through, well, not right through, but smashed the windshield, leaving a giant crack. Oops!
We also loved Brian as a roommate because he loved pranks. This is the story of how Brian and Emily met. To understand this story, we must go back to the summer of 2015 when Brian landed his first student engineering job at the nuclear plant in Deep River. It is at this job he met a nice young man named Colin. The two become friends, and Brian invites Colin to come visit us in Ottawa. So Colin comes to visit Brian. We're all excited to meet him. Like all good hosts in university, we decide to throw a massive house party for his arrival. The party is great, and like many of our parties, at the end of the night, people decide to go to McDonald's for a late night snack. So Colin and Brian leave to go to the McDonald's, and so does this other new girl at our party. So, in the wee hours of the night, at a shady McDonald's, Brian meets his future bride. She invites Brian and Colin back to her house with her friend. The four of them hang out for a while, and Colin eventually made it home to our house. But Brian, he didn't make it home that night. So the next morning, we wake up and hang out with this guy Colin, who we don't even know sober. So when 11 a.m. rolls around and there's still no sign of Brian, we decided it's time to take matters in our own hands. For this poor lonely Colin, he leads us to Emily's house. I open the door, I call his name, but there's no answer. But I do spot his shoes in the doorway. So I do what any good friend would do, and I take the shoes. Brian eventually wakes up, and after much confusion, he does make it home to hang out with Colin, but barefoot, of course.
We loved Brian as a roommate because he was patient and kind. We met Brian
Well, we met and lived Brian at a very chaotic time in a young adult's life. Moving away from university, living apart from family for the first time, deciding what to do with your life, actually having to make food and take care of yourself. Through all the trials and tribulations, the melodramas and freakouts, Brian was there. He listened patiently, never judged, generously gave his time and support. He was a shoulder to cry on and a friend, put everything into perspective. He was there for the good times, but more importantly, he was there to help with the hard times too. In short, Brian helped make our house feel like a home. We have endless gratitude to you and truly cherish our friendship.
But what we love most about Brian as a roommate is he brought us Emily. Brian, thank you for bringing us this sweet girl into our lives. Emily, you've made this perfect addition to our friend group. We are so happy to make memories with you as a couple, whether that be camping, dancing at the club, playing volleyball, or skinny dipping. Emily, we have also enjoyed getting to know you as a friend through our high tea days, clay painting days, and back porch drinks.
Brian and Emily, we wish you all the best on this day, and we can't wait to make more memories with you in this next chapter. And we wish you both a lifetime of happiness and many more late night McDonald's runs. So please raise your glass for this amazing couple. Cheers.
All right, lovely, lovely ladies. So, without further ado, we have them. There you go. Little clap. We have the lovely main course on its way.
I just wanted to start by saying a big thank you to all of you for being here tonight. Obviously, this the past year and a half has been unlike any other, and it just feels like such a huge blessing that you're able to pull this night off and have so many of Brian's closest friends here to celebrate, so thank you. Next, I also wanted to especially thank Hans and Terri for putting this evening together and taking the lead. Terri, you were awesome with all the details that you were able to just keep in your head and not get overwhelmed. And thank you also for keeping Terri under control. It was overwhelming, I won't lie. I fumbled my way and struggled through that first year with a few tears along the way. But I have to say that the 25 years that followed after that were just a dream any parent would want to have. You know, you were, I guess if I would describe you as a baby, I would say you were a very energetic, curious boy, and who never wanted to sit still. When you could only sit, you wanted to crawl. When you could only crawl, you wanted to walk. When you could walk, you wanted to run. And then when you could finally run, you just wanted to play every sport under the sun. And I guess, luckily then I was young, and I could keep up with you just a little bit. And so when I look back at the fondest memories I have of you and me, I would say they revolve mostly around sports. You know, tennis matches. I appreciate it. And then also just all the different scrimmages, basketball scrimmages in the driveway over the years. That was a lot of fun. You could always drive past me, no problem, one-on-one. You always had me, but I swear, even to this day, I have a better jump shot than you. So, yeah. And of course, just like was mentioned, going to Raptors games, like that was also one of my fondest memories, whether it was going to them live in Toronto, or just watching them on TV, or even just talking about trades, you know, like different. Or if D-Dad was involved in the conversations, you're arguing about Masai's decisions and who to trade and who to keep. So those, I guess, would be my biggest good memories. And then the other one that is firmly in my brain is the day we packed up all your stuff and drove you to Carleton in Ottawa. Arriving on campus and seeing all the, you know, craziness of Frosh Week and driving to taking you to your dorm room and started unpacking all your belongings. I was so excited at first, and then at some point it just hit me, and I got this sinking feeling in my stomach, you know, like when I realized, oh my God, I'm leaving my son here. And then all of a sudden I wanted to like just slow down and it would take forever to unpack everything because I realized I was going to say goodbye. But like everything, it was bittersweet because I know it was the right thing to do, but it was one of the hardest things I've had to do. And I remember standing there in the doorway of your room and just saying to myself, Michelle, don't cry. Michelle, don't cry. And yeah, but that was one of the hardest days. And then I got to the car, and I can tell you the floodgates just opened at that point. The whole way home, I was just bawling in the car. But like everything in life, you handled it with such ease and maturity. You know, you always made time for your friends, your family, and balancing that between doing well in school. And I guess that would be the thing I would always think about you. Your whole life, you had tremendous balance between schoolwork, hard work, but making time for people that matter, prioritizing the right things. But then I think, the other best thing about you going to Carleton, besides getting a great education, of course, because that's where you met Emily. And I remember the first time Tim and I got to meet Emily, and that was when we were at Calabogie one weekend, and you guys came up just to join us for a couple days. And I remember thinking, wow, what a pretty nice girl this is, you know? So, and the best thing was, I saw how much you guys laughed together. It was the laughter that really got my attention and made such a firm impression on me, and I'm like, wow, you guys are a good fit if you can make each other laugh like that for your life. That's an amazing quality. So, Emily, we're really proud to welcome you into our family. You're going to be here amazing, and I know being with Brian can be a challenge at times, but, but so far you've done amazingly well together, and I'm so impressed by just not only the laughter, but the gentleness that you have with each other, the way you communicate, and so I just hope that that'll serve you guys so well going forward. I know, Brian, I've told you over the years, I think it must be a million times how proud I am of you, but it's really both of you I'm proud of. When I look at what you guys are juggling these days, between your jobs, obviously, your side businesses, Emily, that you have on the go, but just the time you make for everybody. And I think just tonight, looking around and having seen all the people that have gone a long way to be here, really, to me, shows me just, it's a testament to how much you guys prioritize your family and friends. So I think you should be really proud. So, did you want to say?
Well, I didn't really, Michelle wrote a whole speech and she hasn't looked at it. I didn't write anything, and that can be dangerous, but guys, you did it. You got here, you did it, through the ups and downs and some challenges. You always held your chins high, and I'm really proud of you. Brian, I couldn't ask for a better stepson. Unless, of course, his name is Dan. And Emily, it's been just wonderful getting to know you. Thank you for being the brunt of my jokes sometime and my weird sense of humor, but you're starting to give it back to me, so that's great. And I'm looking forward to getting to know you more, and over the years, more dinners and hanging out in the backyard. It's been wonderful, and the same with Angie and Terri. It's been great getting to know you, and looking forward to many more years.
Where is that evil twin sister of yours? We haven't seen her for a while.
She's hiding. It's good.
All right. We'll try to keep it brief. We've had a few speeches, and obviously there's lots more to go with this evening. I have the privilege of having been Brian's dad for darn near 26 years now, And my wife Tracy has had the pleasure of being his stepmom for about 2/3 of that. 2/3, almost 3/4 of that. And it's been a real pleasure seeing you grow and mature through these years to become the man that you are today. First off, thanks again to everybody for taking the time out of your summers and out of your schedules to join us in celebrating Brian and Emily's marriage today. This is wonderful that we've got so much family and friends. You guys are getting a little sleepy out there. I think you're probably getting a sense already that there are a few things about Brian that we all notice. First off, some things that maybe you don't know. Brian's been known by a number of names over the years. Mr. B, Bobbin, Dan, you know the origins of that one? Yeah. When Dan was too young to pronounce his name properly, it came out Bobbin. Somehow it became Goombalabaya, and through a typo in a video game, Goomblabia. And my personal favorite, which I still call him to this day, Gooms. Brian is inquisitive, analytical, driven, and quickly excels at any sport he tries. He can best be described as impatient. No, we'll go with energetic. I think that's a bit of a nicer term. Persistent. He always has been, and he always will be. Emily? I'm sorry. He simply doesn't stop moving. Even when he's standing still, as you've heard, he just does not stand still. Literally. Like this in the kitchen. Cannot stand still. It's unfortunate that your best friend was unable to make it here tonight. I'm not sure if you all know who Brian's best friend is. It's actually his oldest friend in the world. Yeah, he may be recovering from surgery again. He's had a few surgeries in his life. And although he couldn't make it tonight, I'm pretty sure he will be attending the honeymoon in Hawaii. No? He's going. He's going. The friend I refer to is Brian's oldest stuffy that he's had since he was still in a stroller. Little doggy. I wish we had a picture here. I thought about bringing him here, but I was worried he would get lost here. Emily, you're pretty familiar with Little Doggy, aren't you? Yes. Another interesting story. Tracy and I met and got married when Brian and Dan were young boys. Brian would have been 6, 7, 8, 9 years old as our relationship began. And it was really interesting because Tracy actually met Brian before she met me. Yes. When Brian was still in daycare, the daycare was in the bottom of an office building, and every year at Halloween, the kids would be taken upstairs to go trick-or-treating through the offices. And as it turns out, Tracy worked upstairs in one of those offices and distinctly remembers the cute little Superman who came to her desk looking for candy. And if you look at the screen up in the corner, there's a series of pictures of Brian and Emily rolling through, and at some point you'll see young Superman. So that was kind of funny that when we got together, she actually recognized that she knew him before she'd ever met me. My favorite memories with you, Brian, and I'm sure this comes as no surprise, board games at home, sports in the backyard, attending any of your hockey, soccer, and baseball games, whether as a coach or assistant coach or helper or spectator. Our annual baseball road trips, we did 5 of those in total over 7 years. Dan on each of them, and Jess got to come on the last one. And weekend camping trips, including the one that the 3 of you and I enjoyed earlier this summer, which was just a wonderful time to get away. And that's what the kids have all learned, and hopefully this is something that you'll experience as you get older. The thing that as your dad, I valued more than anything else when it came to Christmas, or my birthday, or Father's Day, the gift that I always wanted, and the gift that I always got, was time with you guys. So I appreciate all the time that I've had with you. We live far away from each other, and I don't see you near as often as before, but those times are still special. Our least favorite time? Our least favorite memory? What is it now, 7 years ago? Almost 8 years ago? you moved to Ottawa. We knew it was the right thing for you. We knew it was good for you to grow and get away from home and become your own man. But it was very, very tough seeing you leave, especially in hindsight. Although you came home that first summer, you wound up with work in the Ottawa area, and when you graduated, you stayed. So that was very difficult in hindsight to see you go. We absolutely adore who you've become and the growth that you've gone through. You've wound up with a wonderful wife. You've wound up with a life and a home and a city to call your own. But we always kind of thought maybe you would come home after school. So that was a tough one. Yeah, we're going to adopt Aaron and Madison instead because they're still in London. And I'm sure the emotion that I just expressed is something that my parents, your grandparents, can relate to, as both Mark and I grew up and moved away for school and really never came back home. So I think it happens to a lot of us, and the point is to cherish your kids when they're young and when they're at home. I've often mentioned this to you, Brian, over the years, and today is the day I get to make the actual reference. Harry Chapin. And as I hung up the phone, it occurred to me, he'd grown up just like me. My boy was just like me. Emily. From Bracebridge, which was very, very nice, very, very interesting place to grow up. And I learned that your dad was a police officer. And that's when I realized that maybe I'm the one who should be nervous. And in particular, Brian should be nervous. Anyhow, of all the things that we've come to learn about you over the years since then, Emily, we've gotten to know you a whole lot better. And I think the most important thing that we've learned about you is this. And Brian tells us time and time again, repeatedly and without hesitation, I love her and she makes me happy. And that's what matters the most. So thank you for loving my son, and thank you for making him happy. On this, your and Brian's wedding day, we would like to officially welcome you to the Goodman family. You've met all of us at times over the years. My brother and his family, my parents, Tracy and I, and Brian and Jess, of course. Tori is now in the picture as well with Dan, and you guys get along quite well. Counting from my parents on down, you are officially Goodman number 12. So welcome to the gang. Brian and Emily, some advice for you. And I'll be serious here. Be purposeful in your relationship. Maintain an interest in one another's interests. Spend time and truly be present with each other. We're all guilty these days of pulling out our cell phones all of the time and being connected to everyone else out there except the person that we're with. Be present with your spouse. Hold hands, unabashedly so. And while it's important to maintain your individually as a couple of me's, together you are now most crucially a we. As you wake up tomorrow and every day after that, remember, while this wedding was a special day, a truly magnificent day, your marriage should be a special lifetime. Don't take it for granted or fall into ruts. Always invest the time and effort necessary to keep the marriage special. Please join us and raise your glass in a toast to Brian and Emily as we wish them a lifetime of health, happiness, peace, prosperity, wisdom, and love. To Brian and Emily.
For those of you who don't know me, my name is Dina Vanher. I'm one of Emily's bridesmaids and a friend of both Emily and Brian's from university. I'd like to start by saying how great of a job the bride and groom did planning your special day. Everything looks amazing. Emily, you look stunning as always. Brian, we were surprised you cleaned up so well. Out of this newlywed couple, I actually met the groom first, Brian, Darren, who's also a part of the wedding party, and I technically all met in first year university, living just rooms away from each other on second floor Russell. Although, I think Brian and I maybe have exchanged approximately 30 words that year, and I mostly remember thinking, damn, that guy is way too intense about sports. In third year, due to our mutual friend Darren, Brian and I were forced to spend more time together in class. And since Darren was notorious for not actually attending said classes, Brian and I eventually bonded. Brian, as I'm sure many of you know, is a very smart guy. And see, the trick to getting through engineering is to find somebody who challenges your own intelligence, trick them into being friends with you, and then use them to explain things you don't understand. So Brian, thanks for getting me through a decent chunk of courses. I feel like it was a fair trade-off for having to sit beside a guy who ate whole cucumbers in class with confidence, like it was a normal eating habit. Naturally, with the work hard, play hard mentality of engineering school, Brian and I became going out on weekend buds. Such activities included themed parties. Shout out to the Meadowlands Drive crew up there. Bar hopping, game nights, and swing dancing. And while Brian takes pride in being fairly good at most things, swing dancing folks was not one of them. One of these going out weekends ended up being approximately 2 days after Brian and Emily met at a charming McDonald's on Meadowlands Drive after a Canada Day party. We were forced to take refuge due to the rain under a windowsill of a large building downtown. I overheard Brian talking to another friend about a girl he had met. Pro tip here, eavesdropping on your friends is acceptable if it ends up leading to wedding speech material. Brian mentioned he thought this girl was something special and that she would be good for him. And with the foreshadowing of that overheard conversation leading to tonight, I think it's fair to confirm Brian is and was in fact a very smart guy. So, through Brian, I met Emily at my 21st birthday party. I knew almost instantly that we would be good friends. Emily is one of the nicest, most genuine people I have ever met, and that was apparent even in that first interaction. It wasn't long before Emily and I broke out in group settings, and we began our own friendship love affair. Our mutual love for Taylor Swift shopping, serial killer movies, and wine created an undeniable bond. And Bachelor in Paradise, yes. Our biggest contrast was Emily's love of cats versus my tolerance to them. It took her years to wear me down, and I'm only admitting this because it's her wedding day in front of witnesses, but sometimes Ollie is okay. One of my favorite memories with Emily was going to a VIP Cineplex to watch 50 Shades of Grey. Naturally, we ate and drank a little too much like the responsible university students we were. I'm quite certain the rest of the theater did not find the movie nearly as funny as the two of us seemed to. That same amount of laughter always seemed to transfer into most things we did. I remember when Emily called me and said she was certain Brian was going to propose in Greece after he suddenly sprouted a newfound interest in romantic photo shoots. I think it's safe to say that Emily is also a very smart woman. The same happiness and excitement that was in her voice then was what I saw in both Emily and Brian the day we came to tour this venue almost 2 years ago. And we all saw it again today, watching them meet up at the end of the aisle. Emily and Brian, you've always been one of the most wonderful couples and individually wonderful people. Anyone who sees you together can tell how much you adore and love each other. Basically a 2021 Monica and Chandler, because we all know how much the bride loves friends. Depending on whether... Thank you for asking me to be a part of your special day. It was an honor to be standing up with you. I love you both lots, and I can't wait to see where life continues to take you. If we could all raise a glass to cheers to Emily and Brian. Yeah,
It's still there? You got it.
All right. I'm Kayci. I'm the maid of honor. First of all, I just want to say, what a lovely building and what a lovely wedding we had today. Isn't it beautiful? Wow! Right? And so many speeches. There are so many of us who love this couple so much, and it's so great to see. So I'm going to try to keep this short because I know it's been a long night. I met Emily about 6 years ago at the back of the concession stand when we were both working at Cineplex. My first impression was that she was quiet and friendly, and back then she always had her hair in this long brown braid over her shoulder. And that's how I picture her. And as I'm sure many of you have experienced, she's always been quick with a smile. Emily has a dazzling smile that lights up the whole room. I would dare anybody to try to resist smiling back. Like, you can't, it's impossible. We spent years of long and sometimes dreadfully slow shifts together, making popcorn and talking, while our hair and our clothes and our skin just absorbed this buttery popcorn smell. And I will forever remember my friend whenever I smell that buttery popcorn smell. While we talked and got to know each other, we quickly discovered that it was only a matter of time before fate would bring us together. For a time, we had lived in small towns very close to each other in Renfrew County, but we had never met. We were both students at Carleton, and we had even taken a course that was the same, but we took it a couple semesters apart, so we had never met. And then when Cineplex first opened at Lansdowne Park, Emily was hired right away to work on the 3rd floor in VIP, and I was hired right away to work on the 1st floor in box office. So it took almost a year of working together until our paths finally crossed. And when it did, it felt as if we were destined to become friends. During our friendship, I've had the pleasure of watching Emily grow. That quiet popcorn girl with the braid has now become this beautiful, smart, ambitious, and outgoing woman. I've been witness to the growth of her career, her continued dedication to education, and the countless milestones that she's achieved in the life that she's built with Brian. One of the most anxious experiences of my life was when Emily and Brian left for their cruise in Greece. They had been dating for a few years at this point, and they were living together, and most importantly, Brian had passed the cat dad test. Ollie had approved. So Emily had made up her mind that this was the man that she wanted to spend the rest of her life with, and I knew that she was fully expecting a proposal on this trip. So you can imagine how relieved I was when I finally got the message that says that Brian gave her the proposal of her dreams in Santorini. And it was just so great to know that the life that they had started together would continue to grow. So from the start of our friendship and continuing forward, Emily, I will always be here for you. Whether you need a cat sitter, or someone to vent to, or a detailed pro-cons list whenever you're making career decisions, or if you just want some company whenever you're feeling down. You know that you can depend on me, but today I'm really happy to officially welcome a new member to Team Emily, and that is your husband, Brian. So welcome to the team, Brian. I am so happy that Emily has found a good man. Brian is everything that you hope for in your best friend's husband. I know that he'll take care of her because when I visited them at their home, I've seen him cook her dinner and gently encourage her to eat her vegetables. I know that he'll always provide her with unwavering support because I've seen firsthand how he supported her greeting card business and celebrated her successes. And I'm so happy that Emily and Brian share a love for adventure. I know that they'll continue to explore this big world, sharing experiences and making memories. So on that note, I'd like to say congratulations to Emily and Brian, and cheers to the start of this newest adventure and the many more to come. Emily and Brian.
Hey guys, I'm Jess, formerly known as Jessie. This is Dan, my big brother, and I mean big. Yeah, it's Brian's wedding, so we kind of had to take the opportunity to get a few jabs in, but we do love you, really. Anyways.
Well, so for all of you that don't know me, and you're probably thinking, wow, this guy looks and sounds a lot like Brian. It used to be an insult, but to be honest, seeing the man that he's become, I don't mind it as much as I used to.
So one thing we've come to know is that in life, they say it's important to learn from your mistakes. Well, growing up, we didn't have to make those mistakes because Brian would make them for us. Brian has lost more wallets, keys, iPods, and general personal belongings than I can count on all 10 fingers and toes. Example A, one time he lost his wallet, so we all went across London on bikes or walking, looking for this black wallet with basically all of his personal and important things in it, of course. And that's a story of how we also spent Dan's 14th birthday.
But somehow for Brian, it always manages to work out in the end. Like the one time when he lost his phone on the side of a highway when it fell out of his door, and we realized like 15 minutes later, turn around, go back to get it, and sure enough, there's his phone, somehow magically intact on the side of the highway there. I think most people would say that he's just plain lucky, but I think in Brian's case, it's really just his calm composure and ability to always remain calm in these kinds of situations. Excellent example, I think, would be my first drive up to Ottawa when we're in Brian's old rickety car that I'm sure you guys have heard about by now. As we're on the highway and the windshield becomes very foggy and dirty, and a lack of wiper fluid, of course, makes that a bit of a problem to the point where I cannot see. But Brian has a small window of vision in the windshield there. So he says, "That's fine, Dan, I'll steer. You know, you just work the gears, we'll be fine." And of course, I'm praying for my life, but Brian could not be more relaxed as he's reaching over, steering this wheel, and sure enough, he remains calm and everybody was okay. But that said, it has been nice to learn from his mistakes. And, you know, hey, thanks to Brian, I've learned not to eat uncooked burgers, sand, or popcorn laying on the ground at the end of Raptors games.
So I think we can all acknowledge Brian has lost a lot of things, but one thing he hasn't lost is little doggy, like my parents were mentioning. Rumor has it he still sleeps with it to this day. I think Emily can, say for that. As much as we've been able to learn from Brian's mistakes, we've also had the privilege of having him show us the way growing up, being the oldest child.
Yeah, Brian has always been a true role model for both of us growing up. And all throughout my life, I've actually often followed the same path that he has paved all throughout growing up. Whether that's through going to the same high school, working with him at the Hum Club, and even choosing engineering as a career path. Each one of these steps, I always knew that if Brian chose it, it can't be that bad of a path to follow. Yeah, it's pretty funny. But yeah, for a young kid, you know, with all these options and uncertainty, having a big brother there to show you the way has been a huge blessing. Except for my first day of grade 9, when I'm a scared little grade 9 kid, just trying to find my way to my math class, you know, with my books in hand, and along comes Brian, and whacks the books out of my hands, and shoves me into the locker and says, "Welcome to high school, Dan."
So I have a bit of a different perspective, I guess, being the youngest by quite a few years. I was the younger sister. I don't have any other sister. Well, now I have a sister. But my childhood was a little bit interesting. I wasn't your typical little girl painting nails or playing dress up with dolls or anything. Nope, instead I was playing on the Wii, King of the Hill on the Snow Pile, or occasionally giving my brothers nosebleeds from my plastic baseball bat. But you know what? It's a childhood I will forever cherish, and I'm so very thankful for it.
And Brian has definitely had to put up with quite a bit from both of us, especially from me. There were countless times when I would get mad, usually because something like the video game was cheating in his favor, and I'd probably scratch him or punch him or do something similar. I was definitely a real brat to you sometimes, but you never got mad back, and even despite all that, you always did remain a point of stability, guidance, and a best friend, even despite all the annoying stuff that I would do to him. Being a big brother is definitely no easy job, but he has done an amazing job at it.
Brian has always been very spontaneous and ambitious in life, so much that he does go out on a limb about a lot of things, which can be both really good and really bad, but it's definitely showed us that if you put your mind to it, anything is possible.
Brian's spontaneity is something that I definitely admire a lot myself. When there's an idea or an opportunity, most people will always focus on the problems with it and all the reasons not to bother or why it can't work. But Brian just makes things happen. Perhaps my favorite example of this was the one night when we're driving back to Ottawa from Mont-Tremblant, very late on a Sunday night, just in time to catch my 8 a.m. ride. Being 18, I had not yet been to a casino. So when we passed through Gatineau at 2 a.m., Brian had the last second idea to pull over and show me the ropes for my first casino experience. And most people would think that that's a silly idea, but instead we pulled up in our pajamas and just had a great night doing all that.
One of my favorite things growing up too was that being the youngest and Jim was the middle child, Brian was the oldest, he would often overrule my mom and dad's parenting, which was amazing for me, not always great for them. But I would usually get my way if it was maybe staying up past bedtime to play a couple of Mario Kart. But eventually one day, Mom and Dad had enough of it, so they said that if he wanted to parent me, he also had to pay for me. And that came to a halt.
We both have always looked up to Brian, and even today I know I still do. Growing up, I remember I always wanted to be just like Brian and his friends. We were in grade school. I always thought that Brian and his friends, 3 grades above me, were just the coolest, and I hoped that I would be like them when I was their age. Then fast forward a few years, and the first time that I was in, Brian was in grade 9 probably, and the first time I was invited to go with him to the Byron Biker Boys Fort, I thought that was just the coolest thing. And then, another few years later, when I'm halfway through high school, hadn't been to a party yet, so of course, when the one night our mom and Tim were away, hopefully they've heard about this, and Brian and his friends decided to have a small house party, thought it was the coolest thing that he let his annoying little brother tag along and be a part of the fun. Even today, seeing all the great things that he's done in his life, he's definitely still a big role model for me, and he's someone that makes me always strive to be my best self.
Alright, well, come on, this dude has upgraded from a My Little Pony dorm in university to an actual house now. He got married today, which, I don't know about you guys, but the fact that my brother's married is still a little freaky. He's a little bit of a kid to me still, but we'll work on it. And he also has an awesome job at Shopify. But on behalf of Dan and I, we're really happy for what's to come in your future, and we're so glad that we can call you our big brother.
When we first met Emily, we were definitely amazed at just how kind, talented, and all-around awesome you are. And the way that Brian looks at you, we can definitely tell that you are someone special. But given that he's our big brother and you are choosing to marry him, we figure there must be something wrong with you, but we still haven't figured that out yet. So maybe one day we will.
So here we are today. You guys are now married, and we couldn't be happier to welcome you into the family.
And if Brian is even half as good of a husband as he has been a big brother, then Emily, you will be very lucky to have him by your side. And we're very lucky to have you join our family. Thank you.
We're actually done now.
Because the bride and groom are going to make a lovely, spectacular speech.
There was no one there. They're doing cleanup.
Emily Goodman and Mr. Brian Goodman. Take it away. Round of applause, please, for the Brian group.
Wow, this has been one of the most incredible days of my life. So many beautiful moments and speeches. It's really been an emotional wedding for me. I mean, even the cake is in tears. But really, thank you all for coming. We're so happy to have all of you here to celebrate with us and give us your support. Each and every person here is here today because they have played a significant role in Emily or mine, our lives. I have a bit of a smaller family, so if you bear with me, I'd just like to recognize those who in particular have watched me grow up and can now breathe a sigh of relief that I've somehow managed to trick someone into marrying me. My grandmom and D-Dad. I feel lucky to have grown up with you so close to me that I could see you so often, playing games and celebrating events. While I moved further away into a new city, it's somewhat poetic that now I'm able to see my other grandparents more. Granny and Farfar, you've been an absolute blessing to me in Ottawa, providing comfort when I moved here, and continuing to open your home to Emily and I. Likewise, my Uncle Mark, Aunt Liz, and cousins Haley and Molly. You've opened your home and cottage in our lives to Emily and I, and I'm truly grateful for that. It's been so nice getting to go skiing at Tremblant with you, even though there's way too many moguls and I still suck at them. My Aunt Nicole, Sarah, and Lisa. This actually continues the poetic nature of me going to new cities and getting to see family more. Some breaking news here, actually. So in February, Emily and I are going to be going to Philadelphia. Yeah, that's right. We're going to be watching the Eagles Super Bowl parade there. So hopefully, see you guys at the parade, fly Eagles fly. But no, I love you guys so much, and I'm honored at your commitment to have made it across the border to get here for this wedding. So thank you for that. John and Levi, it was so great having two more best friends to grow up with. When I watch our old home videos of us, it always puts a smile on my face. Even if it is half the time for me laughing at how damn annoying I was. My step-parents, Tim and Tracy. Tim, you made it easy for me to get along with you growing up, teaching me valuable skills and lessons, like how Taco Cat spelled backwards is Taco Cat. Where would I be without your wisdom? Tracy, you have always raised me as your own, and I appreciate all the things you have done for me, helping me grow up, one of which was raising an amazing little sister for me. Jess, even though you're 15 now and probably squat more than me, I'll always think of playing games in the basement with you as a little kid and being your favorite bubber. And Nicholas, I've really enjoyed getting to watch you grow up from a goofy young toddler into the goofy young teenager you're about to become. I love you both and how much you've embraced Emily as a sister. To Dan, my OG sibling, my best man, the best brother I could ask for. You and I have been through it all together, and I cherish the incredibly special bond we have. I'm so excited for you and Tori and the journey you're about to go on, and I know it will be amazing for you guys. I'm glad we can make it a hell of a last week in Ontario here together. I love you so much. My parents, you guys sure didn't make it easy on me, but I love you so much, and I'm so thankful for you to both be able to be here to celebrate. Mom, thank you for always putting me first, and for the constant love and care you've given to me. I see how much you've done to protect me and take care of me growing up, and it's been amazing having you in Ottawa the past couple of years. And Dad, thank you for all the fun you gave through always prioritizing games, sports, and anything else with family time. Those baseball trips were legendary, and they epitomize the father-son bond we have and which I cherish. I'm someone who's lucky enough to really know that they have two parents that love them so much that they would fight for them. And I really look forward to you extending that love to my beautiful wife, Emily, as part of our families now. To my new parents-in-law, you have raised such a wonderful daughter that I am blessed to be standing here married to. But just as importantly, you have embraced me and always made me feel a part of your family. I remember the first time I came to visit in Bracebridge, you gave me a Shell gift card to cover my gas for the trip. I couldn't believe you'd go out of your way to do that, but I've learned since that this is the type of people you are and the type of person you've raised your daughter to be. And that's why I've wanted and I'm so grateful to be a part of your family now. And finally, the most important person to me now and the rest of my life. And no, I'm not talking about Ollie. And yes, I stole that joke in Mary Madison. I'm not sure if anyone knows this, but Emily and I actually met in our first year of university. Sort of. We were both in the same philosophy class, learning about the meaning of life. And yes, to answer the question on everyone's mind, I got a better mark than her with an A to her A minus.
That's rude.
But while we were both in those lectures, it wasn't until a couple years later that our paths finally crossed more closely to bring us to the point where we are today, standing here married together. Emily, I'm so excited for our future together. We bought a car, a house, we've been on a dream vacation, and we're freaking married now. We've had countless unforgettable moments. We've also been through difficult conversations, family issues, and emotional disagreements. We've opened up everything to each other, and there are no secrets between us. We fully trust each other, and that is why I'm excited to share my life with you. With someone who will be there for me, knowing all my flaws or weaknesses, but support and help me reach my goals. And always know that I will do exactly the same for you. So looking back on it now, I think it's safe to say we both actually got an A+ in that philosophy course, because we've both discovered a huge meaning to our lives with each other. Thank you.
I honestly don't know how I'm going to follow that. Okay, I just want to say good evening, everyone, and welcome. Brian and I would like to thank you all for being here today to make our day extra special. It's been quite the journey over the last year and a half because of the pandemic, and we're so grateful that we're able to have everyone here. It was really questionable over this past year if we were able to have everyone here, and we finally were, so we're so grateful. We have people travel from all over to be with us today. We have people from British Columbia, Jackson, Philadelphia, the Remans, and even New York, which is Levi and Cosette. We'd especially like to thank our parents for their consistent support, generosity, and love, not only leading up to this day, but throughout our entire lives. I'd like to start by thanking my parents. You've always been the biggest support system and tied for my #1 fan. Mom, you've always been my shoulder to cry on and source of comfort whenever I need it. Thank you so much for all your love and emotional support. I don't know where I'd be today without it. Dad, you've always given me so much life wisdom that I will carry with me. I remember when I was around 16, feeling not so great about myself as teenagers usually do, with my teenager hormones, as my brother would say. And you told me not to worry because I will find someone who will love me for exactly the way I am. And I just wanted to say that you were right, like you always are. And I can't express how much I appreciate you both and everything you've done for the both of us. Thank you so much for accepting Brian into the family with open arms and treating him like your own son. Michelle and Tim, I'm so grateful for the relationship that we have, and thank you so much for accepting me into the family. Our times of long evening chats and drinking wine are priceless, and I wouldn't trade that for anything. Michelle, you've made me a red wine drinker. You both are the kind of people that would give a stranger the shirt off your back, and that is the kind of quality that Brian also has. Brian always sees the good in people, just like you, Michelle, and that's something I've always admired. And Paul and Tracy, thank you so much for contributing to raising the man of my dreams. He's everything I could ever ask for. I always look forward to coming to London to visit you guys, and I particularly loved our family game nights, especially when we would play Cranium. You're the only ones who can get me up at 5 a.m. for our Christmas mornings. And last but not least, my husband, Brian. It was love at first fry when we met at the most romantic place on earth, McDonald's, if you didn't already know. This is not a paid advertisement. And the rest is history. When I first met you, I knew I found someone special. Your sense of humor, your kindness, and your smile were just a few of the first things I immediately admired about you. We've always been so good for each other, and I've always known that you were the one I wanted to be with for the rest of my life. I knew I loved you for the first time when we were visiting your mom and Tim in Calabogie. I told myself I wasn't going to tell you I loved you until I knew you felt the same way. And it just so happened that same afternoon, you told me you loved me for the first time.
We've been through so many adventures thus far, and I can't wait to see what the future holds. I think I forgot to thank some people. I'm so sorry. I just realized I forgot to thank our bridal party, but I think it'd be better if I did it in song. What do you guys think? Started from the bottom, now we're here. Started from the bottom, now the whole team's here. Yeah, started from the bottom, now we're here. Started from the bottom, now the whole team's here. Yeah, started from the bottom, now we're here. Started from the bottom, now the whole team's here. Yeah, started from the bottom, now we're here. Started from the bottom, now the whole team's here. Hasn't quite been 2 years, but now we're finally here. All have been so great. I'll live you for Harley Way. Thank God I found my dress with all the help from Jess. I had all the strings, cause you cleaned up the mess. But now the day has come, I am very the one. Dina, you were so great to third wheel us on our dates. And Caitlin, thank you for being my brother's food. And Maddie can't stop us. You also found the one too.
Now for all the guys looking fly, rocking the suspenders with royal blue bow ties, starting with my big dumb white man Dan. Our brother to the cameraman, that's Nick was meant to hand. We got there and pulling up its slides. Then the guy who almost died, it's Johnny from the boat ride. Everyone came and got a lady. And Jackson's throwing his football, wishing he were Brady. And we started from the bottom, now we're here. Now my whole team here, yeah. Started from the bottom, now we're here. Started from the bottom, now my whole team here, yeah.
And now to end it all, we gonna keep it epic. Nothing gonna stop us, not even this pandemic.